Is your customer experience your new brand? I will have to agree that your overall customer experience, in essence, is your brand today, right? Your brand is not what your slogan says anymore. Your brand is controlled by what people, right? Your customers, your prospective customers say about you. So for sure, your customer experience defines your brand, and there's no getting around that. Absolutely, the customer experience is the battleground for competition today, right? Organizations and companies, for the most part, don't compete too much on price, because if you're in an industry where you're competing on price, it is a race to the bottom, right? Competing on products also gets difficult because most companies tend to source their products from the same place, right? A Nike t-shirt and an Adidas t-shirt are probably made in the same factory. So the competition now is on the overall experience perception. How do customers in general feel about the brand, feel about your overall products and services, and what are the interactions, right? How do you show up on social media? How do you show up in the stores, in sales and service and marketing? Those are the grounds of competition today, and no longer this one costs $6 and this one costs $7. We are competing today about the customer experience. The question is, how does customer service impact sales? In a very direct way and in an indirect way. So let me talk about how customer service impacts sales in a very direct way. When customers are purchasing things from you, whether you sell goods or services, part of what they're buying is the service behind it. So in other words, if I buy a pair of shoes from you and you send me the wrong size, and I find that it is difficult to deal with customer service, very directly, it will impact your sales, because I will not buy another pair of shoes from you again, or worse, I might return it and I might tell people how terrible your service is. How customer service impacts sales in an indirect fashion is, if your service is bad enough, you now begin to erode confidence in your sales in indirect ways. This is where you have things like word of mouth. Your salespeople are not as confident pushing your goods and services. You're not getting referrals. These are some of the indirect way that being bad at customer service can impact your ability to sell as a company. So how can customer experience really begin to be a differentiator for small businesses? If you think about the world we live in today, especially if you're a small to mid-sized business, you probably can't compete with the really big companies on scale and on price, on those kinds of things. But what you might have is the ability to drive really differentiated experiences that those big guys couldn't possibly do, right? Because bigger companies tend to use automation. They're trying to go fast. You might use your smallness as an advantage for you in terms of the customer experience. You might begin to do things that are unique that the big guys could never attempt to do, right? An example might simply be, think about how you might provide personalized services to your customers because of your size. So because you know your customers more intimately, you know what they like, when they like, it gives you an opportunity to surprise and delight your customers. You can do things as simple as remembering your customers' birthdays and flagging that. And so that when you have interactions with them, you wish them a happy birthday, you send them a card. There are ways that you can design your experience because of your size and use that as a competitive advantage for you in the marketplace. How does customer service, or how much does customer service impact the overall customer experience? I will say by a lot. It takes a disproportionate part of the experience. The reality of it is, how customers tend to feel about your organizations in a vacuum has very little to do with customer service, right? If you think about it, most people who have an interaction and buy stuff from you never actually call customer service. In general, it's a small percentage of people who interact with customer service. But then why do I now say customer service takes a disproportionate amount? Because those few people who do interact with customer service, right? If that interaction is poor, it has a multiplier effect on your overall customer experience. So in other words, if you're consistently bad at it, they will influence not just the people who contact customer service, but even the people who never contact the customer service now begin to have a different perception about you. The other side to this coin is if a customer then has a problem and you show up and you are spectacular in how you handle that, it has the potential to turn a customer who is neutral about you, right? Who is like, yeah, you guys are fine, to being a super fan because they bought from you, something little went wrong, and you blew out their level of expectation. So customer service plays a huge part in your overall customer experience because it impacts not just those who you are dealing with, but your entire customer base and even future and prospective customers as well. Well, digital customer service should not be something for you to be bragging about anymore. It is like saying we have now stopped going to Blockbuster, right? We are digitizing the entire economy as we go along. So just simply taking an experience, right, and digitizing it, right, making it digital does not equal a better experience. In fact, there are plenty of times when making an experience digital becomes infinitely worse, right, than when it was just physical. For example, I went to a fast food restaurant at an airport and there were no one there to take an order, and you had to sort of push these buttons on this touch screen to place the order. So yes, they've digitized the experience. Was the experience better? No, it was significantly worse. So when you think about digitizing the customer experience or digitizing parts of customer service, it's not, the goal should not just be making it digital. The goal is making that experience less, right, with less friction and more human, even if you're introducing technology. So digitizing your service as a goal is a stupid goal. It cannot be a goal in and of itself because we're going to do digital anyway. It's about how do we improve the experience, and if we need to bring in, right, digitization, fantastic, but digitization in and of itself is not a goal. So what is customer experience? Customer experience has become this ubiquitous term, but in plain English, it's simply how do your customers feel about you every time they interact with you, during the sales process, during the marketing process, right? It's how they feel about your company throughout their experiences and their interactions with your brand. What is the difference between customer service and customer experience? Yes, it is true that lots of people who are in customer service have started using the terms customer experience because it's in vogue, and lots of people in marketing, customer experience is the hot thing, so everyone is associating themselves with it. The truth of the matter is, as a distinct profession, customer experience tends to be a little more coordination and cheerleading. In other words, companies that have a customer experience department or customer experience practice, the jobs of the people within customer experience tends to be all around gathering folks from throughout the organization to put the customer at the center of what they do. So in general, if you have a customer experience department, to me, it's like having a profit department if you are a for-profit company. It should be obvious, but I guess some organizations do need a department or group that reminds everyone we are here for the customers. I am not saying if that's a good or bad thing. I'm simply saying that you generally need a customer experience department, in part because you feel like most of the organization doesn't already think in a customer-focused way in the first place. Does every company need a customer experience officer? I think the answer is no. In fact, if you have a customer experience officer, so chief customer experience officer or chief customer officer, congratulations. But I think it speaks more to your need than anything else. The fact that you need someone at the table reminding the rest of the executives, reminding every other department, coordinating every other department to focus on the customer. If you just think about that for a second, tells you perhaps where your organization might be and where we might be overall in terms of how we are thinking about the customer, right? So customer experience is about this idea that we should be thoughtful about how customers perceives what it is we are doing in pricing and our brands and products, right? I would argue that you should be doing that anyway. I don't think Apple, for example, will have a chief customer officer or chief customer experience officer because from a DNA perspective, they are already focused on customer perceptions as they go along. But certainly if your company needs that kind of help, I don't see anything wrong in having a dedicated group focused on customer experience. How will customer service change in the future? I think that we're already seeing the signs of what's to come in the future, and it's only going to accelerate. So automation and artificial intelligence, for better or for worse, are going to play a starring role in the future of customer service. As you're looking around the marketplace and you're seeing what's happening with labor today and the friction of service industries, difficulties in finding staff, yes, you will see some upside pressure to labor costs. And what you will see companies do, and this is not an endorsement on my part, is they will accelerate automation. How can we use technology, right, to do customer service instead of humans? And the rationale would be, if I hire an artificial intelligent powered machine to do this thing instead of a human, those robots never need a time off. They're never tired. They can work all day and all night. They don't get overtime. You get the idea. The combination of the cost savings that they will get from there and the scale in terms of efficiency will be far too tempting for companies. So look for customer service in the future to be much, much, much automated. If you think you hate technology now and there's too much technology in customer service, there is no doubt in my mind that the future will include more and more and more of it. And I'm afraid it will be bad at first, and hopefully it gets better as time goes on.